We're super excited about this guest. We honestly, we're all meeting each other for the first time here on the show, but through a mutual connection of John Edward, who was on our show recently.
Yeah, we love him.
Good friend of ours for a long, long time. He said, "Oh, you guys should talk to this guy. He's great. I think you're really going to like him." And we generally trust John. Generally, so we're going to go with it. Jonathan Lewis is here, psychic medium Jonathan Lewis. Thank you so much for being on the show, man.
No, it's my pleasure. I really appreciate you guys having me on. I really do.
Oh, well, that's absolutely ours. Let's dive right in, and let's start with, we always like to ask people about their beginnings and how they got started doing whatever it is they do. You do something very different, obviously. You're not somebody who, you're not a cashier, you're not pumping gas, you have a gift. But you didn't necessarily recognize it or pursue it at a young age like so many psychic mediums. Tell us a little bit about how it went for you and when you finally realized this is what you wanted to do.
Well, I always consider myself that hope for people that think that it's too late to get involved with the work, or it's too late to recognize that they can make their own connections. So I was like in my 30s, and I wouldn't even have known anything about this whatsoever if I didn't happen to run into John Edward in 1997. So I was actually building a bunch of houses in a cul-de-sac in the area that I build in, and the story goes, the night before, he was driving by the development with his wife, Sandra, and his steering wheel kind of turned into the development. And he said, I don't know why, but he said, I think I'm supposed to come into this, look at these houses. So he he came in to look at the houses. He's like, maybe I'm supposed to buy a house from this guy, or maybe I'm supposed to, get some ideas for building or something like that. So the next day he showed up at my work trailer, and just started asking questions about the houses, not knowing why he was there. So we kind of struck it off right away. We became friends for about 3 years, 3.5, 4 years. I ended up building a house for him. So
that's great. Nice.
That's one of those things that ended up happening. But then after about 4 years, he said to me one day, we were sitting outside and we were all hanging out. Our wives would hang out together. And he said, I think I'm supposed to train you. And I said, what? He goes, I think I'm supposed to train you. And I said, well, now I don't know if you guys know this, but him and his wife they were competitive ballroom dancers.
I did not know that. That's valuable intel.
Yes. They were competitive ballroom dancers. That's how they met. And
wow.
And he said to me, I think I'm supposed to train you. So immediately I went there and I went, nah, I'm good.
Not into it.
And he said, no, I think I am. I said, I'm really not interested in like ballroom dancing. He goes, no, stupid. He goes, the other thing. So that's how it started. And I did like 3 or 4 years of just ethics, like, the power of your words, how to approach people when you say things, how to say things in the right way. I didn't even do my first reading for almost 3 years after he started training me. So it was crazy. And that's how it started. That's how I got involved with the work. So I'm one of those people that really had no clue, and just, I guess he found me. So that's how it happened.
That's fascinating to me, because I don't know why, because it should occur to me, but it never occurred to me that someone would do training and learn the things that you have to learn, all the little nuances that go with what you do. And it makes total sense, but it never even, like, is that the norm? Like, if somebody is new to it, would someone who has been doing it for a while train them, or is that just for people who have good ethics?
Well, for me, it was almost like he could tell, because every time I would make a joke or crack a joke, it would happen. And that's how he knew, because I would like get information ahead of time, not knowing that I was getting it that way. I was just making jokes or cracking jokes, and then it would happen. And he said, So he started to take notes. And I guess after a couple of years, he started to realize, wait a minute, I know why I'm supposed to meet this guy. So that's how my journey started. Yeah. So I always say to people that are in their 50s, 60s, or in their 80s, and they're like, oh, it's too late for me to learn what I know. That's never too late. It's never too late.
For someone that's never sat down for a reading, describe a reading for us. Like, how does that go?
So my process is factual information is key for me. So, I'm a little overboard with it. So to know somebody's coming through, I need some real hard factual information that they're coming through. And that information can be connected to the person I'm reading, with their family, or anybody around them. But I need to know that it's clicking. And the reason why is because sometimes, and we talked about this real quick before we got on here, sometimes I'll get information about something that somebody doesn't want to hear about. About what direction they need to take, or how they need to look at things moving forward. And they're like, But if I get their mom coming through, or their dad coming through, and I get some solid factual information around them, I always say, if you're going to listen to that, then you have to listen to the other stuff too. So
Okay.
it's about helping people to shift their energy and remove blockages.
That isn't. I love it that you look at it that way, and it seems like in this day and age too. I wonder how many people don't want to hear the bad stuff. It's like, hey, I came here to feel better about
Yeah, I was
myself.
saying today's world.
You know, they love to complain. I didn't know you were going to tell me bad stuff. I want my money back.
Yeah, my favorite part's at the very end. I'll say like, well, I hope this helped a little bit. And it's like crickets. You know, I get no answer, no response, no reply, because, you know, not everybody they just don't want to, people don't want to work sometimes. They don't realize it's just not going to land in your lap. If you want to make some shifts and changes, you got to put some work and effort into it.
Yeah.
When you started doing readings, like what was the first time where maybe you surprised yourself, or was there some moment where you're like, whoa?
Well,
Yeah. Do you guys get freaked out by the stuff that happens? Because I mean, obviously for us,
Yeah.
when we hear what you do, it's crazy. But
yeah, I get freaked out all the time. And I was told a long time ago, if I stop looking at this as being kind of incredible and cool, then I shouldn't be doing it. You know, if it becomes like regular, I shouldn't be doing it, because to me, I think the idea of them being able to connect in some way, shape or form, I think is kind of incredible. So I always looked at it that way. But my first experience was kind of funny. John, of course, set me up with somebody on a phone call, and he was, you know, on the phone as well. And it was somebody that had just lost their mom, and it was a friend of somebody that he knows. And he just put them on the phone with me. And then I started reading or getting information around them. And when we were done, the person said to him, I thought you said he was new. So at the work. So it was kind of cool, the response I was getting. And he said, listen, you're ready. So he threw me in front of a group of psychics and made me read them.
wow.
Yeah.
Talk about pressure. Oh my
No,
gosh.
the funniest part about this story is, and he's gonna kill me when I say this, but he literally put me out there. He said, listen, I want you to read for a bunch of people. And I was like, what, now? He's like, yeah, tonight. I was like, I'm not ready. He's like, you're ready. You just go out there and you just do it. And I'm like, but I don't think I can do it. He's like, you can do it. Just shut up and go do it. So he put me in front of now, I don't know if you know how people are, but you know, you put me in a room full of psychics and tell me to read them. Not the easiest thing in the world to do. So
For sure.
when we were done, I did whatever I had to do that night. And then afterwards, he said to me, he goes, boy, you got a healthy ego. I said, what? What do you mean? What are you talking about? He goes, I never would have done that. And I said, what do you
Nice
mean you wouldn't have
move.
done that? You told me to do it. And he goes, yeah. He goes, I know, but I never would have done it. He goes, I would have said, no way. I'm like, I just stood there. I had that moment of like, am I supposed to listen now from now on? Or am I supposed to say, no, I'm not doing it, you know? So it was pretty funny.
That's awesome. You're just jerking me around, dude.
Now,
Yeah,
in your
yeah.
everyday life, do you ever have people come through when you're not doing readings?
No, I have to be honest. I don't. I kind of, when I'm working, I'm working. When I'm not working, I'm pretty much shut down. The psychic part's always there. So when I'm doing I build houses. So when I'm in construction and we come up with these ideas for things and I'm like, hey, maybe we should do that. And it works, you know, I'm like, okay. So I'm getting help that way. But I don't see people's parents when I'm walking around. I don't try to do that. Matter of fact, in my field of construction for the last 20 years, 18, 20 years, nobody knew I did this work.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I kept it completely separate.
See, like I've always wondered, even like when we talked to John, because like my father-in-law's passed away fairly recently, and then another close family friend's passed away.
Right.
And we'd be talking to John, and I'd be wondering, like, are they trying to get to him right now, or whatever? And so you basically have to set up appointments, and then you just zone into that.
Yeah, if I wanted to be open all the time, I could, but that's exhausting. So what I do is I kind of trained myself to meditate and open up right before I read. And on regular daily basis, I keep that part closed off. So it's
when you open up, what does that look like? Can you describe what that looks like when someone comes to you?
Well, it depends. Sometimes I'll see them in the form of like my own relatives. So if I say I had two grandfathers and one was really nice and one was not, they might show me the nice grandfather and I'll know that that's that kind of energy coming through, or they'll show me the one that's more difficult. So I'll get an idea of their personality before they come through. I'll see things connected to them that are like stories that happened around the family, things I can relate to as well, like things that maybe happened in my life that they're showing me. I don't really see them. Matter of fact, I'm always like jealous when people say like, yes, when I was 15, I saw somebody floating out my bedroom window on the second floor. And I'm like, I never had that. You know, it's like, I never had that. So I never had that kind of experience.
Okay.
It's interesting, and I guess it would be different. I mean, we are all individual people. We all have our own things. You describe it that way. John has described it as colors and images and things slightly different.
Right.
I bet you could talk to 10 different people who do what you do and get 10 different answers about how it works for them and how they see it.
Yeah, it's how you relate to things and how things come through for you. And again, for me, like facts is important. So I'll see a lot of information, like dates, birthdays, anniversaries. I'll see names. I'll see things that are like very, very visual. I'm actually a very clairsentient reader, which is feelings and emotions, but I don't like to read that way because it's like, oh, there's a lovely woman standing behind you right now with her arm on your shoulder telling me she loves and misses you. That doesn't go over too well. So
Yeah.
I've learned to kind of adopt more of the, direct approach with like, hey, these things make sense. Yes. Okay. Then I have your mom,
Okay. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
I want to back up a little bit, since we talked about the fact that you didn't really get into this until later. So when you were younger, what, if anything, when you were young, gave you an indication that something was different, something was going on, maybe made you question something? I don't know if it was something where you said, hey, I think I might have this, or if it was just like, am I just a weirdo? Like, what was it for you as a kid? How did it come to you at that point?
Well, as a kid, I was pretty much a loner. So I was not somebody that needed to be around a lot of people, nor did I like to be around a lot of people. So I did a lot of talking to myself. So back then I would think like, are you nuts? Because I would always talk to myself. And as I got older, looking back at it, I realized it was their way of communicating, getting me information. So I would see things a certain way and kind of like figure it out in my head or take a long walk somewhere and kind of just feel what's coming through. But at the time, I thought it was just me doing it. So that's the difference. It's like recognizing when it's you and when it's not you.
Interesting.
So that made the shift.
Have you ever?
for me.
That could be a trick.
Have you ever done a reading with someone that was just really, I don't want to say a jerk about it, but a jerk about it? They were just like, none of this is useful, none of that. And then come back later and being like, everything you said, that's actually, I'm figuring it out now. Because I know John Edward a lot of times would say, write things down. It'll come later.
Email after email after email. Yeah.
Really?
It's crazy. But, and I don't blame people too. I'm kind of compassionate when it comes to somebody being read because they're on the spot in the moment. And as long as they're nice about it, we're fine with it. It's when somebody gets nasty, then it's different. But when somebody's like, I don't know what that is, I'm like, just write it down. Hopefully it'll make sense.
Well, that'll be me. I'm going to get nasty when you give me a reading someday. Just so you know, be prepared.
And there's your
That's
unhappy
right. I'm used to that
customer
too. Click.
I'm how many over the time you've been doing this, rough estimate, about how many people have you done this for?
I would say I've done about maybe 4,000, 5,000 private readings. I read
That is
almost every day. So I feel like it's important. Like I like doing groups and everything like that. And I always know that the privates are important because that's how you hone your skill better. That's how you kind of like get new information. When you're doing a group, you can kind of jump around. It's a little different. When you're doing a private, it's like you have no place to go. There's just no place to go. So we got to figure out what it is. And I tell everybody, I'm very grounded. I'm like, listen, I don't know exactly what I'm seeing, but hopefully it makes sense for you. If it doesn't, we got to figure out what it is they're actually showing me. And then if the person comes to me and says, well, it might be this, then I'll ask who's coming through to back that up with something factual. So it still keeps the facts going, it's like building on top of what we have. But I always want to make sure that we're in the right spot. I call it double fact checking, when I'm doing information. So I always want to make sure that whatever they're telling me is accurate as well.
If someone were to write a movie about you and they said, okay, I need some stories, tell me about some of your some amazing readings you had. Does a reading stand out to you, right? That pops to your head like, oh, this would have to be in the movie. This reading was so amazing.
Well, you know what? It wasn't so much that the reading was amazing. It was the process of how it happened. So I had a reading one time where the person they were in the middle of my night. Say I was doing like 5 or 6 readings that night. They were number 4 and they canceled their reading. I didn't know they canceled the reading. The office was not aware of the fact that they canceled the reading, or they were, but they forgot to tell me, or they didn't put it on the note. For whatever reason, I was not aware that this person canceled their reading. So I called them, and like I would normally do, and they were like, hello. And I was like, yeah, hey, Jonathan Lewis, I'm here to do a reading with you tonight. And she said, I canceled. And I said, oh. I said, okay, well, you're on my list. I said, I have no place else to go. I have to wait another 50 minutes anyway. I said, if you're interested, I'll do the reading. She's like, okay. So I ended up reading her. Long story short, her dad had come through, who was an abusive father, a very abusive father. She had a really tough life. Things were not going well for her. She had just made a decision that week to actually end her life. That's why she canceled the reading.
Oh, wow.
So after the reading, when her dad came through and explained a few things and got her to see things differently, she told me the story. She said, I actually canceled because I was leaving. And I said, what do you mean you were leaving? She goes, I chose to leave. She goes, so I looked at this as some sort of sign. She goes, because I canceled the reading. So I know that there's a much bigger force out there that is like, I'm not in control of anything. I know that. I give it all up to them. Like, listen, if I read some nights, I don't read whatever. If I'm supposed to say things, I'll say it. If I'm not, I won't. But I know they're in control. I'm just the pawn. Mm-hmm. I know that for a fact. So I don't take this as it's a privilege to do it. And I looked at myself as a conduit for information, and that's it. But she literally shifted her energy that night and said, this is making me see things very differently. And I feel like now, I don't know what happened after that. I never heard from her again, but I felt like in that moment, that was the most important part of this work, was getting somebody who's like on the fence to kind of shift how they look at it and maybe move toward the light more.
Yeah.
I think, anybody, whether you physically pull somebody off a bridge, if they're anybody who helps someone not make that decision and be able to see a light and change their perspective, it's incredible. So just, and in this way, with how you do it is also remarkable. That's a great story. My gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah. And I had no clue. So that was the best part about it, was I had no clue until the end, until she told me the whole story at the end. So It's kind of like, it made me feel like really small. Being used in the moment to make sure that to help somebody, make the right choices.
Do you have a difficult time, because no matter how you cut it, there's always going to be naysayers. There's always going to be people who think what you guys do is hooey, whatever.
Right.
How do you deal with that? Is it difficult mentally and emotionally to know so many people want to try to prove you wrong or say what you do?
I've been trying to prove John Edward wrong for 20 years.
Yeah,
so
I know. I know. Well, listen, I don't know if you're allowed to curse on here or not, but I really could give a squat.
Absolutely.
I really could. And I think to be able to do the work, you have to be in a place where you don't care. Because if you care about somebody saying something really positive, then you have to care about somebody saying something negative. So to me, it's just a job. I do my job, I get done. That's it.
How much time, since you're doing this now, are you 60, 40, 50, 50 with the house building this? Because obviously that's, that's what you were doing. It's
split. I love building. It's in my blood. My father was a builder. Both my grandfathers were builders. Wow. So it's never going to be something I'm not doing. But I also make sure that it's an alternative to this, because if you put all the energy or the expectation of this work to supply you with your income, then the universe can use that as a tool against you. So I always make sure I've got my building industry or my building line, going full time. So this way, nothing can be used as a way of getting into my energy in the wrong way.
Okay.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love the
Keeps
attitude.
everything
That's
in
fantastic.
balance.
Fantastic. Well, I think this is not a reading, but I still come away from you feeling very positive and good today. So if people want to see you, if people want to have a reading, if they want to get together with you, how do they do that?
Well, there's a couple of ways. Well, I'm on TikTok a lot. So if somebody goes on to TikTok, it's just Psychic Jonathan Lewis, JONATHAN. And then Lewis is LOUIS, not LEW. And so it's
do you have any way to tell that you're the real account? Because I know fakes.
There's about 43 copycats on TikTok alone, but it's ridiculous. But yeah, there's a real one.
Yeah, great. We'll get that. We'll make sure we put the link to the real one in the description here.
Yeah, and then my website's the same thing. Psychic Jonathan Lewis. There's no extra L's, no extra T's, no extra A's, no letters, no dashes. It's just Psychic Jonathan Lewis.
Got it.
And again, we'll have that link in the description so folks can go straight from there and know they're getting to the right place. Jonathan, man, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. You guys are awesome.
We find what you do fascinating, and we'll let John know that.
We'll text John to let him know he has now dropped to number 2 of our favorite psychic mediums.
That's right.
Great,
John
thanks, guys.
He didn't even know who played all the Rudies on the Bionic Man. Mr. Bionic Man expert.
Can't trust him. The guy doesn't know his $6 million man. We're supposed to believe what he's saying.
That's funny.
Thanks again. We'll talk to you again soon, hopefully.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.